I believe that means the monitoring and the understanding of the underground, the monitoring and the understanding of how transactions are being carried out by cyber criminals, the understanding of who these actual cyber criminals are and attribution and the disruption of those networks. And then, of course, from a crimeware perspective, obviously having the appropriate controls to mitigate the risks that are associated with all those tools that cyber criminals look to utilize. See, I can still make it work in the framework.
Color outside the lines.
I would go with the data also. In the end, that's often what we're actually trying to protect. That's the element. And with IoT, I just assume if it's a large enough organization, there's IoT vulnerabilities out there because there's just so many problems that are out there because devices came out without security and that. So I'm just segregating all that. But it's kind of interesting because one of the things that's changed about the CISO's role is that things that were never under the purview of the security department now have to be. And I gave a talk recently and I asked people how many of the CISOs in the room are responsible for which coffee maker gets put into the break room. And that sounds strange and weird and ridiculous, but if somebody goes out and buys a connected coffee maker and someone forgot to turn off the Ethernet jacks in the break room, which I've seen happen too, and plugs it in, you now have an unknown device going onto a network, who knows which network. So we've sort of entered the world where, machines and devices that we were never responsible for are now causing us problems. I mean, I see you're smiling, but it's good for investing in this space. But it certainly creates issues. For the $100,000 round 4, so we go with lots of big issues. Where do we go from here? Still got some money to spend, but it wasn't our highest priority.
Yeah, so I think now that we're painting outside the lines, I'm going to take some liberties with that too. I would actually say miscellaneous errors, and I'm going to interpret that as being errors that happen inside the company, and that's going to be my training and awareness budget. So that's something that I think is really important. Security really does begin and end with the end users doing the right things. And frankly, I wouldn't want to have a budget like this and not spend anything on training and awareness.
All right, I'm going to go back in the lines. I would say my next investment or my next round of spend would be on web application attacks. It's kind of a cross-section between attacks on those web application properties, but also at the same token, kind of a DevOps, SecOps type of hygiene check. We continue to live in what I kind of call the developer plague of agility and time to market for products and services, and continue to have challenges with the efficacy of the products that we're utilizing, and a lot of them end up being your core web application properties.
I will go with miscellaneous errors, but with this definition, being able to understand the protocols and the information and having the transparency in your network so that you can understand what is legitimate traffic and not legitimate traffic. Adversaries today do a good job of being able to hide in the noise, so you have to have the ability to reduce that noise. Also, one particular way of reducing the risk of IoT is obviously understanding those protocols, which ones are normal. So miscellaneous errors from my standpoint is allowing traffic to exist in your environment that hasn't been trusted and identified.
I would close actually with what you began with, which is denial of service, because one of the trends that we've observed recently is that the magnitude of the denial of service attacks is growing faster than the ability to defend against them. They're just getting much, much larger in terms of bandwidth used, and that is not a good sign towards the future. And denial of service attacks also serve another great purpose for hackers. They're a very good distraction mechanism. So if you launch a denial of service attack while you're doing something else, if someone's website goes down, if a major bank, consumer bank cannot have consumers logging in, they're focused on getting that up, and they are more likely than they would at other times to miss other bad things happening. So I'm somewhat concerned about that. So
can I challenge you on that? Because I hear a lot of people talk like that. Can you give me one example?
Not that we can discuss on the panel, but one that I was involved in, yes.
Okay. More than one?
One that I was involved in that I can tell.
So again, I hear people talk about this all the time, right? That denial of service is a distraction. So the reality of it is when someone's being denial of service and it's public, yes, a bad guy may jump on board. It's kind of like when there's an emergency and somebody puts up an American Red Cross fake website for you to donate that. But again, I hear people keep saying this all the time, but it's really not part of the adversary's plan. It's usually a piggyback, right? I mean, meaning somebody chases low-hanging fruit because they know somebody's getting DDoS. So.
Either way, I'm concerned about DDoS because the growth of the bandwidth utilization seems to be going faster than the typical legitimate party is adding bandwidth, and at some point that's going to come home and be a problem. Maybe not for the largest financial institutions and the like, but you're going to see it in middle tier where it's going to start affecting more. Honorable mention. So this is, hey, we didn't have full budget, but we would have liked to buy this, and so next year we'll put it on the list.
I guess I would say crimeware, and I can actually kind of maybe bridge the gap between what you were both saying in terms of a destructive malware is a type of denial of service. That actually really does concern me. As we kind of start thinking more and more about what would happen if somebody's not only just taking your data but actually causing the company harm, like actually trying to take you out. That obviously is a very, very big challenge and something that I can kind of bleed into both the denial of service and the crimeware honorable mention category. So I have money for it either way.
I would piggyback threat modeling, but I would add a spin to it to say that it's more about simulating potential threats and being able to do more than just a red team type of test exercise. More of a, what we call internally a purple team test, where you're actually testing red team capabilities for entry and or exposure, but also testing the efficacy of your mechanisms and your efficacy of your detection capabilities. If there's any startups out there doing that, please give me.
And I will go outside the range and say a cyber range. For those of you that don't know what a cyber range is, it's actually being able to do everything everybody said around threat modeling and everything else and actually make it real in a virtual environment where you make a virtual environment of your environment and you can attack it. You can actually see if your instant response. You actually take new vendors' products, you actually put it in there, and then you unleash attacks to see if their products actually do what they say they're going to do.
My honorable mention would be educating management to give me a bigger budget next year. We have time for one more question. So understand, because it actually is a very relevant conversation for this audience. Do you prefer to deal with one vendor for multiple solutions, or to go for best of breed between different parties. What's your general tendency?
Yeah, I mean, my general tendency, we want best of breed, but they also have to play nice with the other tools. So that's, I know, kind of a splitting the difference answer. Where we can partner with one strategic vendor and it makes sense, we want to do that. But I think ultimately you don't want to deploy like a lot of things that don't talk to the other things, because then we've got a people problem. We have to have eyes on multiple panes of glass, and it just becomes a staffing challenge. Frankly.
So I'm going to answer that two ways. So as a former operator, the goal was always to rationalize a number of tools and processes to the point already made that the correlation and the interconnectivity of data, knowledge, etc. Makes you that much stronger. However, there is a big gap when you try to consolidate with the larger players. There's a big gap on the innovative side that requires you to continuously invest and purchase from up-and-coming smaller companies that, in your hope as an operator, may end up being acquired by some of your larger partnerships. As a venture capitalist, best of breed all the way.
So there's no product out there that solves it. So we want products to be able to API with other things. We spend an enormous amount of our budget innovating, creating patents. I think we've had like 50 in information security in the last 5 years. So if your product is closed, you probably have a closed opportunity. If your product is open and allows you to work with other things, can go a long way. So an example I like to give is the whole agent-based technology. To roll out an agent in my environment is probably 18 months. So not going to be very happy with agents just because of the pain associated with it. However, if you can OEM and ride on an existing agent, that's a wonderful way, right? Because just have to push out an update rather than pushing out a whole new agent and going through all the different regression testing and a whole bit that goes into place.
Well, we're out of time, so thank you, everybody, and I hope nothing bad happened while we were up here.
So welcome. Thanks for coming. We are the M&A panel. So I will introduce you to our great panelists here. To my left we have everyone. But first we have Madhu Sudhakar, who is an entrepreneur and executive and a board member of Baffle, which is a data protection company, and DB Cyber Technology, which is a data security manager. Next we have Eric McAlpine, who's co-founder and managing partner at Momentum Cyber, which is an investment bank devoted to cybersecurity. Then we have Alex Dahl, founder and managing partner of 1011 Ventures, which was the first VC fund founded to focus exclusively on the digital security space. And last we have Ken Schneider, vice president and head of ventures at Symantec Ventures, which is an investor in early-stage cybersecurity startups. So I just wanted to kick off by asking what makes a company in the cybersecurity space a desirable takeover candidate? Ken, do you want to jump in on that one?
Sure. Yeah, so look, I think the biggest impact that Symantec can do, I mean, we're the largest cybersecurity company by double of anybody else, and as our stock prices recovered in the last couple of days, we'll get back up to that 20 billion market cap people were talking about earlier. But we really look for, honestly, we do different stage acquisitions, so there's like no single answer. But for earlier stage acquisitions, it's really about can we plug that company into the machine and rapidly accelerate the revenue of whatever that product that the company's got. And if we can do that, we've already proven that we'll pay top dollar essentially for companies with not all that much revenue if we feel like we can really scale the revenue quickly. Symantec's got literally thousands of feet on the street in the field, because we all know most small companies don't have that. So the ability to kind of rapidly take a nascent technology product, plug it into a platform, and then drive a ton of sales around it, that's honestly one of the biggest things we're looking for.
What makes it easier to plug in a company like that into your...
So in the past, this has been really hard. I mean, many of us have been on the side of acquired companies. Acquire and integration is the way you're always measured. And so I think the thing that's gotten a lot easier in the last 5 years or so is security has been traditionally very poor at platforms and open APIs, the ability to tie things together quickly. So I think that's changed quite a bit. I think there's now platforms where we can actually do honestly, our whole investment thesis is to drive more innovation around the ecosystem, work with companies that can plug things together with Symantec, get more innovation to our customers more quickly. So companies that do that make it much more easy to acquire and then easy to get that rapid success. I mean, you always model synergies, of course, in any M&A exercise. The upside synergies are dramatically higher if you can do some of those integrations prior to any actual acquisition.
Sure. Alex, any thoughts on this topic of what
Alex has been acquired by Symantec.
Yes, Ken bought me. In 2010, I was the chief operator of PGP, so 2002 to 2010, we were acquired by Symantec, and so no thing or two about that, the two of us. I think in general on M&A, the thing that a lot of people are like, oh, it's our standalone valuation. I think the thing that gets missed the most is, and I sort of call it from a business standpoint, an incremental business plan, right? And it's not your standalone business plan as a seller. It's not the standalone business plan of the buyer. People miss a lot the ability to reposition the combined entity. And we throw around words like synergy, but a lot of the time it's can you take product and drive to channels a lot faster? Can you open up a new route to market like an MSSP business that maybe an acquirer doesn't have? And then I think so there's really a whole analysis of an incremental business plan and what does the world re-rate the combined company as, right? And a lot of times in security, the big innovators need to buy, or the big companies have had a hard time delivering innovation. And I talk a lot about cybersecurity industry in general, sort of tracking or approximating maybe pharmaceuticals or bio, where the entirety of R&D and the entirety of innovation been sort of outsourced to a venture capital function and a joint venturing and partnering function. I don't think we're that far along, but I think it's further like that than most people think. Big tech and big enterprise tech traditionally hasn't been able to deliver innovation from inside of it. Security has struggled to deliver, and a lot of the resources get allocated towards integration engineering, and it's difficult post-acquisitions for a lot of the companies to innovate, and that's why we have so much capital going in, because it's the one place where innovation is being delivered into the big problem we all know is happening.
Sorry, the other thing is the only industry that exists where there's an active foe on the other side trying to break everything you do is security. So the whole equation around innovation, I think, will always be somewhat different for cybersecurity than other spaces.
Let me add different things. I give you a different viewpoint, because coming from an entrepreneur and being acquired 5 times, the number one thing is you want to focus on revenue and customers. One good acquisition is you want to be a market leader. The only way you can be a market leader in cybersecurity space or any other places, you want to have enough customers. If you are the number one player, you get good multiple. If you are number 2 or number 3 or 4, it falls down exponentially, right? So that's the number one I look for. If not a good revenue multiple and if you don't have a good customer base, then better have a people team, right? I mean, people acquisitions will be traditionally, again, where's the location? I know the earlier panel talked about the location doesn't matter. Where I come from, if you're a private company, it's all Silicon Valley, that's it. I mean, if you're outside of Silicon Valley in Seattle, you fall down in terms of what you get, right? If you're in Boston, New York, or even in Israel, it's not that same multiple you get, traditionally speaking. So I think the location of the people matters a lot going forward. Look at any large companies like the cloud providers. They really want in Seattle or Bay Area all the other product names. So that's what I look for in those two.
Silicon Valley or your son. Eric, anything to add that you think makes a successful investment or M&A target?
Sure. I think Ken nailed it. I mean, we talk about sort of two dimensions when we go into big companies like Symantec or Pan or Fortinet, companies like that, Proofpoint, which just has a very successful programmatic M&A program. Extinguish and extend, right? So you have an installed base. Do you need to put the fire out, right? Is there something that you're not doing, or is there FOMO? Is there something that your competitor did that you need to make a reaction to? And then extend, and looking at proven and provable opportunities.
Sure.
So we spend a lot of time on the finance side, really going through and down to like pricing and bundling, right? What's this going to sell in the channel? And if you can sell that story to one of these strategic acquirers, you can get a price that has nothing to do with the multiple. It has everything to do with the opportunity. And M&A is all about people. These are companies, these are products, these are people. And you need to find a sponsor, and you need to sell that vision. And the dirty little secret is, whatever you've done as an entrepreneur, whoever, you may be asked to reinvest up to 50% of your sweat equity into the combined entity and then earn that back over a couple year period of time. And you'd only do that on trust and vision. And you got to tell that story. You got to get a board to sign up on it.
Sure. I want to flip the question a bit and ask if there are any deal breakers or any things that you see as serious red flags from companies that are pitching themselves or out there in the cyberspace. What do you see as, aside from a headquarters in Boston, maybe? Red flags or deal breakers for you guys?
Well, certainly exciting to be here this morning. I would certainly welcome each and every one of you. A beautiful event and an exciting day of a lot of things ahead that we all can look forward to in the world of cyber investing. So again, I'm honored to be here to provide a few welcome introduction comments here to get our event underway. And certainly this is a very important event that I'm sure most of you, it's near and dear in the investing community. Just briefly, I'm Scott Schober. I'm the president and CEO of Berkeley Barotronic Systems. We're a 46-year-old privately held company. We mostly focus in on wireless threat detection tools that we sell to different cyber agencies and DoD agencies. I'm also author of Hacked Again. I'm also a advisor for BlockSafe Technologies, where they're doing some unique things, securing the blockchain. And then I'm also the chief media commentator at Cyber Magazine, Cybercrime Magazine, and Cybersecurity Ventures. More importantly, though, why are we here today? What brings us all to this event? Well, just a few weeks ago, reflecting back at RSA in San Francisco, many of us are familiar with that. I had the privilege of speaking there, and presentation after presentation, we heard about cyber breaches and statistics and the continual problems that we have in the world of cyber and how it affects each and every one of us present, be it as a consumer, as a company, as investors. It affects each of us. And in August, I look forward to going out to Black Hat in Vegas, and there it focuses a little bit differently on some of the trends in hacking, the zero-day exploits. But again, let's face it, cybersecurity and these breaches affect each and every one of us in a powerful way. When we think about the world of tech, all the different things that are happening around the globe, when we look at the headlines, hasn't it in just the past year somewhat turned upside down? There have been huge changes in the world of tech. Let's talk just a minute about Facebook, Cambridge Analytica. It's been in the headlines certainly there, where our privacy and our data have been challenged, especially with the size of a company as big as Facebook, how powerful they are. Who would have thought that Facebook would be asking politicians for help with regulation? I know I certainly did. Rather surprising, is it not? Facebook just announced that there are another 200 companies that have been found that violate their data sharing policy. Astounding. So we'll see how this unfolds, because it affects all of our privacy, all of our data. The world of cryptocurrency, that's something that certainly has got all of our attention, does it not?